Iconic. The Economy of Certainty. Introduction to the Typology of Islamic Legal Theory. Aron Zysow, Harvard University, 1984, Cambridge, Massachusetts. Ibn Hazm himself, who dies in 546 commensurate with 1064, signals a return to the teaching of Dawood, which he identifies as that of Harith al-Muhasibi, who dies in 243-857, and Hussein ibn Ali al-Karabisi, dies 245-859. It is also reported by Ibn Khuwaizmindad, who was in the first half of the 5th/10th century, as that of Malik, who was 179-795. The unit tradition is a source of certain knowledge and a basis for action. Ibn Hazm's argument for al-Khabar al-Wahid takes up the challenge of the Mu'tazila, that God is capable of giving us certainty in the sources of law and will not leave us in puzzlement by commanding us to act on our presumptions of authenticity. In fact, claims Ibn Hazm, God is not only capable of giving us certainty, but has taken it upon himself to ensure the preservation and transmission of the divine law. Revelation includes the utterances of the Prophet, which are exactly on a level with the Quran. The Prophet, quote, does not speak out of his own desire. It is nothing but revelation. Quran 53:3. But we know that God has guaranteed the preservation of his revelation in the verse 15:9. Verily, we ourselves have set down the exhortation, and most surely we will be its guardian. This verse is generally taken to refer only to the preservation of the Quran, but this, according to Ibn Hazm, is a mere assumption or assertion without foundation. This being so, it follows that all of Muhammad's law survives. It is by God's gracious intervention immune to alteration, and all the more so to obliteration. The unit tradition which God has commanded us to accept is thus an infallible guide to God's will. The Quran, the Mutawatir, and the Ahad traditions form a body of revelation which is impervious to error and falsehood. To claim that a unit tradition which meets all the legal requirements may nonetheless be unauthentic is to admit that the truth is indistinguishable from falsehood, and that God has not kept his promise to preserve the revelation. This, briefly put, is Ibn Hazm's bold argument for the Khabar Wahid. The unit tradition, in the form of a chain of reliable authorities going back to the Prophet, is a source of certain knowledge. It is, moreover, aside from the Quran and the Mutawatir tradition, the only source that Ibn Hazm will recognize. For him too, as we shall note, all weight is put on the formal considerations for authenticity, on the impeccability of the isnad. Ibn Hazm set much store by his proof. Ibn Hazm set much more store by his proof, and appears to have considered it original. Others were not so impressed. Among them are the contemporary Hanbali Abu Ya'la ibn al-Farrah, who dies 458-1066. He reasserts the accepted view that the Quranic guarantee of divine preservation refers only to the Quran itself, and settles the issue by noting that there is a hadith which threatens with damnation those who fabricate lies in the Prophet's name. If this hadith is genuine, then the possibility is recognized that lies may pass as sayings of the Prophet. If the hadith is forged, then here is an example of one such lie, often taken for the truth. Abu Ya'la's own views on the Khabar Wahid are of interest. For him, we find a prime exponent of the Hanbalis to the formalist position. The Hanbali movement was above all united by allegiance to one man, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who died 241-855. A figure of heroic proportions, and it's of the views of Ibn Hanbal that form the basis for the school both in law and theology. It is not surprising then to find the controversy concerning the Khabar al-Wahid in the Hanbali school centering around the doctrine attributed to Ahmed ibn Abi Ya'la. This teaching has been found by Abu Ya'la in the handwriting of Abu Hafs al-Ukbari, who has heard it from Abu Hafs Umar ibn Zayd. Ultimately, it went back to Abu Bakr Ahmed ibn Muhammad bin Hani al-Athram, who dies in 260-873, who, in his book Ma'ani al-Hadith, had quoted Ahmed ibn Hanbal as saying, "When a sound tradition from the Prophet reaches me in which there is an ordinance or an obligation, I put the ordinance or obligation into practice and serve God in this way. But I do not testify that the Prophet said this." For Abu Ya'la, the upshot of this statement was clear. Ibn Hanbal had stated unequivocally that the tradition is not of certain authenticity, that is, there is only presumption, not knowledge. Ibn Taymiyyah, who dies 728-1328, held that the unit tradition could be a source of certainty. He was obviously embarrassed by so explicit an affirmation to the opposing doctrine coming from Ahmed himself. He thus sets out statements of Ahmed which could be interpreted to indicate that the master is really on the other side of this issue, his own. Stay tuned.